So today's lesson is converting between decimals and percent. And the strategy is to do the two-step. So the two-step basically is going to be whether you're going to divide by 100 or multiply by 100. And this will be your mental math. So we're going to go ahead and give you an example and show you how to convert between decimals and percents. So here's the first one where we're converting percents to decimals. You will be given a percent and they would ask you to convert it into a decimal. So the first step is to write the percent without the symbol. Then divide the number by 100, but dividing by 100 is doing the two-step to the left. So let me give you an example. So A has 168%. So you're going to write 168. Your decimal is going to be at the end. Then you're going to do the two-step to the left. So that's 1, 2, which is 1.68, which is 1 and 68 hundredths. So basically, if you divide 168 by 100, you will have 1, which is 100, subtracted 68, add a decimal and zeros, bring the decimal up, then bring the 0 down. So 100 into 680, that's 6. That's 600. Remainder is 80. Bring the 0 down. 100 into 800 is 8. So that's going to be 800. Remainder 0. So if you notice, even though we divided by 100, you still have 1 and 6800, which is what we did when we did our two-step. So when you're doing dividing by 100, your mental math is just to move the decimal 2 times to the left. So let's do letter B. So letter B is 45%. So again, you're going to write it as 45. The decimal is at the end. Do the 2 steps to the left. And then you have your answer, which is 45 hundredths. And then the last one is C, which is 7%. So you're going to go ahead and write 7, put the decimal at the end, and then write 1, 2. Again, since there's an empty space there, it's always going to be 2 steps. Since there's an empty space, you're going to write a 0 there to actually take place of the place value. So you have 7 hundredths as your answer. So all you have to do in order for you to convert a percent to decimal is divide by 100 or do the 2-step to the left. So in this slide, we're going to be converting decimals to percent. So when we're converting decimals to percent, we write the decimal, then multiply the number by 100, which is the same thing as doing the 2 steps to the right. So whenever you're converting decimal to percent, it's 2 steps to the right. So we have an example. So A is 3400. So I'm going to write 0.34. I'm going to do 2 steps to the right, 1, 2. So that means this is going to be 34%. And even though the decimal is at the end, I don't have to write it in. So that's the same as multiplying it by 100. So times 100. So you're going to do 0, then 0, then 1, so 4, 3. But then remember you have 1, 2 decimals, so that's 1, 2 decimals, so that means that's 34%. So that's your answer, and it's the same thing. So let's look at the next part. We have 1 and 67 hundredths. So again, all you're doing is the 2 steps. So your decimal is written out. You're just going to do 1, 2 steps. So that means it's 167%. And yes, a percent can be more than 100. It just means that it's more than one whole number. Because remember, 100 represents the whole number. And then the last one, you have C, which is 500. So again, you do the 2-step, 1, 2. So that's going to be 5%. So when you're converting a decimal to percent, all you're doing is doing the 2-step to the right. So this one you're going to do on your own. You have A is 3/10, B is 36%, and C is 1 and 1/10. So what I want you to do, the decimal you convert it into percent, and the percent you convert it into decimal. Now, I know you can't, sometimes you can't remember the two steps, whether you're going left or right. So this is what you want to remember too. So if you do DP, like Dr. Pepper, so if you do DP, so you're going to go from a decimal to percent, so you're moving to the right. If you're going from a percent to a decimal, you're moving it to the left. And that helps you remember which way you're moving it, either to the left or to the right. So here we have letter A. It's a decimal, so I'm converting it to a percent. So you're going to move it to the left. Here's a percent. You're converting it to a decimal. You're moving to the left. So make sure you're doing that. Go ahead and try it yourself, and then come back to the video and we'll see what your answer is. So here are your answers. Make sure you have them correct. You could put a 0 in front of the decimal. It doesn't matter if you put it or not, but as long as your decimal is in the right place. Now, remember, whenever you're converting decimals to percent, you're doing the Dr. Pepper two-step. If you remember that, then you shouldn't have trouble converting any percents to decimals or decimals to percents. So good luck on your practice. Go ahead and work on that after you finish watching this video.